Welcome back to the Fast Performance Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Cole Thomas, with my co-host,
Connor Reynolds.
Connor. How was your Thanksgiving this week?
It was
Last
good,
week, I should say.
It was good. Had some family over. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday, so I absolutely love Thanksgiving.
Mine
too. You're the first person I've found that feels the same. Everyone else is like, "Oh, really? Like what?" I don't know. There's a lot of people that aren't big Thanksgiving. I guess I put it up as my number one, but I would be very curious. Why is it your number one?
It's simple. It's just a simple holiday. You can just eat a shit ton of food, watch football all day. I mean, I like Christmas too. I like being able to sit and just watch basketball all day. Right. I mean, basketball's my second favorite sport beyond baseball, but that's why I get really into the NBA. I'm not really a college basketball guy. NBA is more my bread and butter. And I don't know, I like the food better. I don't know. It's just one of those holidays I just always kind of attached to. There's no expectation. Oh, you need to buy presents, you need to buy gifts. Right. No, you're just here to hang out with the family, eat some good food, and maybe watch. I mean, that's the thing is Thanksgiving is a very neglected holiday. I feel like
it is.
It's a good holiday. Everyone likes it, but then everyone's kind of has their eye on the prize is Christmas at the very whole month later. But I mean, because there's no Thanksgiving songs. Your only real Thanksgiving movie, which I watched last week, was Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with Steve Martin and John Candy.
Never seen it.
It's like an 86, 88. Really, it's actually really funny. Really? I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was my first time watching it all the way through. So it's a really good movie. I actually learned that Jingle Bells was originally supposed to be a Thanksgiving song.
Really?
Yeah.
The more you know.
The little fun facts about random Christmas songs that it's now been appropriated for Christmas, but originally was supposed to be a Thanksgiving song, I learned. So what happened in the baseball world for you?
Baseball worlds. We had not honestly.
You stayed local. I went out of state for the holiday.
Yeah. Didn't happen too much. We had some lessons on Saturdays, stuff like that. Sunday we didn't have any games scheduled for our Hit Tracks League. We went to do a home run derby. One of my beefs with Hit Tracks is that you have to have a Wi-Fi signal for you to be able to even log in. Because otherwise they can't verify that you have an active membership. And so, I couldn't get in to Hit Tracks or anything. Wi-Fi was down all Sunday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that was a blast. Sent out a little rain cancellation, stuff like that. But it wasn't like we had anything scheduled. We were just going to do a home run derby for anyone that showed up, had some fun, stuff like that. But wasn't too big. I want to break into a little bit, though, of why I have my Thanksgiving being my favorite holiday.
Go for it.
So, for me, when I first, love the food. Love the food. I'm one of those weirdos. I like turkey more than ham. When I go to
I think it depends. It depends on how it's prepared. I think ham is always a constant staple. It's never going to be good. It's never the floor for ham is much higher than turkey, but the turkey ceiling can be very high depending on how it's cooked.
I like that. And so I like that. I love mashed potatoes. I love gravy. I love stuffing, love mac and cheese. I love green bean casserole. And I saw someone else put out well, if that food's so good, why don't we eat it year round? I do. I do eat Thanksgiving style food all of the time, and I love it. But when I first really started loving it was when I went off to college. Why I asked what yours is mine. I have a whole purpose reasons that when you go off to college, Thanksgiving's the first time that you're able to come back to the family from leaving. And so that's the first little break that you kind of get from going off to college. And then you're not going to do anything on Wednesday. You're not going to do anything Thursday, obviously. You're not going to do anything Friday. Then you also then have the weekend. So at minimal, you're getting a 5-day weekend, possibly Monday and Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Right.
So that's possibly a whole week of kind of being off. You go back to school when you come back from Thanksgiving, you're only going to be at school for 2 more weeks. And then you have essentially the full month long. So it almost feels like it's just a starter, it kind of gets the ball rolling. Because then once you come back from the December break, then you're just essentially in like season training, and then the season starts, and bada bing, bada boom, baseball's here.
Right.
So like for me, I almost feel like Thanksgiving gets the ball rolling to get into baseball season. That's why I love Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with all of that. I think Thanksgiving also there's a little more of a sports element to Thanksgiving than there is to Christmas. Like if you have extended family, like I have an extended family, we weren't really all together for Thanksgiving other than Saturday. But I mean, even all the guys, all of my cousins and all that, were all in our 20. I think my youngest cousin's 18. The oldest one's now in 36. My oldest cousin's 37 now, or 36, and yeah, we're just kind of all over the map. Like all the boys are, you know, I'm the young. I'm not the youngest of the boys. I'm the second youngest of the boys, but like one's about my age and one's 2, 3 years older than me. But we're like all just grown up, and we don't really. We used to like growing up. We used to play like throw a football in the backyard or do stuff like that. We just don't really do that as much, but it's because we're just not particularly close with that side of the family anymore. And but there's a sports element to Thanksgiving that I don't feel Christmas really has. Christmas is get your presents, the little kids play with the presents.
That's it.
And then that's kind of it. And it's just now it turns to just hang out and I guess watch basketball. If you're me, like if I'm not very good at like table manners or whatever, like I would much rather just give me my food. I'm gonna go sit on the couch. I'm gonna go watch this basketball all day long, and I will be very satisfied. If you want to come talk to me, come talk to me. But I want to watch these games because in my eyes, like Christmas, like that's when the NBA season like really starts, kicks into gear. Right. So that's where I'm like, I need to see who are all the good teams, who are the players, who are the guys who are going to be legit. Where is this season going to play out? And typically it helps the Nuggets usually now play on Christmas because they're a good team. So that always helps as well.
I also fucking love apple cider. I love apple cider.
I like apple cider, but it's not my first drink of choice.
Oh, like I would drink apple cider for almost every drink if possible. I love apple cider.
So, yeah, I mean, for me on the baseball side, nothing really happened because I wasn't here all week. I guess I did some things. I filled some things out for players, filled out like guys who maybe are listening to this. Like there is a mobility program that I built out for you guys to do at home because we got a lot of guys are stiffer than boards. So I'm like, we need to start instituting a little bit more ability work. College guys are kind of starting to they trickled back in a little bit this week, but then they're going back to school for 2-ish weeks now, and then they'll come right back. Got to figure out how to get guys in the right physical space when they come back for Christmas break, and they can go do some work. It's a lot like remote training right now. So, but other than that, I mean, not a whole lot happened this week.
Any Black Friday shopping?
No Black Friday for me. I bought a couple things, but I mean, it was stuff I had like already exclusive memberships on, so it's not like wasn't like I was going out of my way to buy things. I would love to go buy a new computer, but don't need to.
We haven't done that yet.
No, we're still rocking with the Lenovo that's broken, bruised, and tattered.
Oh man! Well, at least we haven't had any issues in a while.
So. No, we have not had any issues.
We're rocking and rolling. For anyone that knows behind the scenes, you know the angst that we've kind of gone through with this thing.
Oh yeah. So. Moving on to the main subject of this week's episode, we wanted to have a little fun because fall workouts are starting, and we've been getting some nightmare stories from players who go to their high school workouts or things they've done in the summer. And the idea came to me that we would do the Mount Rushmore, or kind of like our top 4 list of the stupidest things that high school coaches do. So Connor, I will give you the floor on this one. You get the first. You'll get one of one. You'll get one of one.
Alrighty. Oh man, with one of one. Let's see here. All right, so my one of one, we're gonna go with ownership of players. So what I mean by that is, I literally saw on Twitter that this one coach was just going through and venting He's just a high school coach, right? He was pissed off that a travel team asked his player for them to go down to Jupiter and play with them at the end of the summer for some tournament. This coach isn't even like the summer ball coach. He is just the spring coach for this kid, and feels like he has the ownership, or he's like, well, what happens if he gets hurt down there?
Like,
Then
it's not on you.
Like what are you talking about? And so like the ownership that some of these coaches think that they have over players, being able to tell them you can or can't go, or like you can't go to this person, you need to go to this person, like just the idea of them thinking that they own those players just because those players live within the school,
within 5 miles of the school.
Like, that's the only reason that they go to your school, my guy. Like, it's not like they went through and they're like, oh, I need to go to this school. I mean, minus like private schools and stuff like that. But like, they're just are in the radius of the school. That is why you are their coach. Like, they haven't picked you as their coach. They just attend the school that you coach at. So, like, in my opinion, I feel like coaches that think that they have ownership over players just because they go to their high school, that pisses me off.
I like exactly. It's like, you did not recruit them. Like, they did not sign a letter of intent to play for Coach James Coach Jimmy Dean Coach Jimmy Dean at Central High School. Just come up with the most generic names possible, right? Like, you don't recruit your players. You don't have ownership of what they do and do not do outside of your spring season. You can hold workouts and you can do summer ball teams, which kind of goes into mine, but we'll keep elaborating on this point a little bit. Where, yes, you don't have your players are their own players. They are not yours. They just, like you said, they happen to live within the radius of the school and they go to your school. But it's like, you're hired as a head coach and as assistant coach as well. It's like, you don't get paid to make those kinds of decisions either.
No,
you were there to kind of like be the molder of men, or try to mold these boys into young men going into college or the workforce, whatever it happens, right? But it's like, yeah, but you don't really get that. Like, it's a little bit of an ego, but it's like, I don't understand this, where you believe you have ultimate authority on what this high school kid does with his career. You don't, because he most likely he didn't choose. He's like, I need to go play for this guy.
Yeah,
like most kids don't know. Like, I knew my high school coach growing up. I mean, because when I went to school, like, Douglas County was the only high school in Castle Rock at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But like, now it's turning into like, most kids going in, they don't know who the coach is personally. They don't know about like how to have an allegiance to a guy. No, they've never developed that.
And the amount of turnover that happens, is like, all right, like, why put all of my eggs in one basket of this dude? Where, like, there's been, just at the high school that I graduated from, there's been like 4 or 5 coaching changes since like 4 years. Like, there's been almost a new head coach like every single year. So it's like, at what point, like, why do I have to like align with this person just because I go to this school?
Right. Until you get into the college ranks, you don't have that kind of authority on those kids.
No.
So my number one, it kind of plays into yours a little bit, is coercion of players.
Oh.
So I had you've been in those things where like, oh, you should go play for this team. You should, like you're saying, like, go train with that guy, go to this facility, go play for that team. But it's like, how many times have you ever been, or you've known kids who, my coach tells me I have to play for this Connie Mack team this summer, or my spot next year might not be available, or it's going to get taken up by somebody else. Like, There's this like, play for my team because I'm going to give you preferential treatment, or I'm going to give you, or it's like I get to see you more if you play on my team.
Right.
And it's one of those, like, it's kind of like you're putting a gun to the kid's head. Whereas like, he wants to play more and he wants to go play on the varsity or the JV, whatever level, but you decide that it's kind of like just holding it up, like dangling like a carrot for him. It's like, play for me and you'll get this spot, or you'll give yourself the better chance of playing in this spot, right? And then just like, okay, now give me all this money. Now we'll go play these tournaments around the state, around town, whether you get better or not. It's like, I just got to watch you play, but your money goes to all this all the tournaments, all these fees. It gives me a little extra money because I didn't make a whole lot of money in the spring, or it goes to the program and stuff like that. So that's why I get annoyed with coercing players into doing something you do. Like just basically what your number one was, is that it's kind of just I originally worded it as like threatening players, but it's not, you're not really threatening them, but you're punishing them. Like, you may not make this spot, you might not make this roster spot, you might not get to play this position you want if you don't come play for my team. And that's why I feel that's where most guys lose that interest in baseball, especially in high school, is that they don't play, and then if they want to play, they have to go play for this team, and even that's not a guarantee. It's go play for my team, I get the better chance to watch you, and then the kid that didn't even end up playing for the team, play for another club ball team, still gets that spot because he's better than that kid.
Yep. And I had written down like coach summer or fall teams. I was going to elaborate. It's exactly like that. Like the idea that you have to be essentially like have your hands on everything. There's only been like a few programs where I would say like, I get it. Like thinking back, Eaton High School during their run through like the early tens, like for a long ass time. I mean, the dude like is the most winningest head coach of all time, like in Colorado at least. But like I would get it. Like if you're growing up and you're at Eaton and it's like, hey, play with us like your entire life, like okay, I would understand that.
But you have that implication that you're going to be playing kids. You're going to be playing with kids you've grown up with.
Yeah, and like, but then there's these other programs where like you'll get like a brand new coach, or maybe not even a brand new coach. They just go in and it's like, you have to play for me, blah blah blah, and it's like, well, like you said, how am I gonna know that I'm gonna develop as a player? Like, what if there's other opportunities? And like just that idea of ownership, the idea of like they can, punish kids like what yours is. Like, it's just that shit is just the most annoying thing in the world to me. I hate it, dude. Hate it.
It's people's egos, people's fragile egos being more important than what's best for the kids.
Oh yeah.
All right, what's your number two?
My two is going to be communication. So one thing that I've found is that a lot of high school coaches generally have a lot on their plate. They're also probably going to be a teacher. They're probably a coach, probably a parent, probably like a lot of stuff's going on. I have a lot of parents that will be going through and out of nowhere we have to cancel a lesson because it's like, oh, well, the coach just sent out an email and saying that we have a practice tomorrow night now.
Yeah.
And like this or that, like the communication aspect from coach to parent, I think at some places can be really good. At other places, it's just a shit show. And especially when you're working with like freshmen and like underclassmen or incoming eighth graders when they're not used to like how this coach operates or the system. And so out of nowhere, there's like, oh, I got to cancel this lesson. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I can't do that. That's pretty annoying to me. And then the other aspect of the communication piece is we are trainers. Our main goal is to be able to, like we've talked in past podcasts, lift up this player at all aspects, not just on their high school team, not just on the like. And so for me, I am trying to be the most transparent as possible with communication in the aspect of what we're training, why we're training, and how we're training. The flip side of it, I haven't gotten too much, and this could just be myself or like others. Like, I feel like sometimes some high school coaches just do not want to like work together, I guess, to do it, because then it almost, like we've talked about a little bit with what you said on egos, and almost like if that player does become better, like who gets to take credit for that? My eyes, I think the player should be able to take credit for that, and that's about it. Whereas I think sometimes in other facilities do it too, where they feel like they're the reason that the kid got better. In my eyes, like, no, the kid's the reason that they got better. We're just like a catalyst to that. But I don't know. For me, I would say is the communication that some high school coaches have.
I see that particularly more in the summer and the fall a little bit, but oh my God, I got some great stories of that. So I had a few kids that came in from a certain high school. I won't mention them, and I don't really. One of the kids I liked, the other two I didn't care for, but they had that same thing with they played with a summer ball. They played on summer ball for their high school. I don't know what league they were doing, and their coach wasn't their head coach of the program, it was an assistant coach running the whole thing, and he was the worst communicator just possible. Like, this would be a guy who schedules games kind of last minute. Would, I had one episode where like a few of the three kids, like I didn't see them for like a week, and the time in the middle of the summer where nothing else was going on for them. Right, they would do some work on the weekends and stuff like that, but there's not really a whole lot going on. And I asked him, like, where were you guys this week? And he goes, like, okay, well, we were good all the week prior. We were coming in, they were coming in all the time, utilizing all the sessions, and then they just didn't show up. It's like, well, our coach was on vacation in Mexico like all last week. He just got back yesterday and we found out we have 4 games in the next 6 days. It was like, what? Or no, even that, like it was like 6 games in the next 4 days, like just doubleheaders on top of doubleheaders. And, I always sit there and think, there's like no wonder like all these kids get hurt in the summers and all that. It's because they're limited rosters, right? They're not filling out a whole roster for a team. And then they're playing all these games that they don't have the roster to facilitate. So now you got kids who are pitching on back-to-back days. You got kids who are catching and pitching. You got all the, like, you're just kind of,
no, Cole, it's all the plyos shit. Dude.
I know,
that's
right?
There's so
it's
many
it's all the plyos and the velo. It's not all the games with 12 guys on the roster. We're gonna play 6 games in 4 days with 12 people because 5 of them are on vacation. And no, it's all your fault because all you teach them is how to throw hard and all. So, but it's just ones like it's where I always feel like we could do so much better if just set a schedule for your season, 20, 30, whatever, how many games you want to play, and make that as like solid as possible, like rigid. That way you can set away times for
practices.
Yeah, with practices. That way you can set away times for guys to go on vacation or times where guys can go work during the summers. You can't just be like, flying by the seat of your pants, scheduling games like, oh, we got this doubleheader in 2 days. We got another doubleheader on Saturday. We got another doubleheader on Thursday. Like, I'm sorry, just now telling you about this. And we had it on the schedule, but I didn't show it to you guys because I always want you guys to be on ready alert, like you're a bunch of firemen ready for.
They're on call.
Your guys are always on call.
I just get a phone call. Hey, we're playing in 30 minutes.
Exactly. I've had a kid who would tell me like, yo, I just found out I had a game 45 minutes before the game started. And it's like, what do you mean you just found out about that? So yeah, just coaches, be better at communicate, because it's like we, like you said, we want to be facilitators in helping your players become really good ball players. That way you can win more games as a coach. Those kids can go play in college and further than that if they would like to, right? Help us help you. But there's so many coaches who are so disorganized. There are so many coaches who just blatantly don't really. It's like if you just do the bare minimum, there are a lot of things would level themselves out. But there are just too many guys who, like you said, like their parents, their coaches, their teachers, they're doing a lot of things.
I don't want to say that they're not.
Yeah, it's like I want to give you credit, but it was like, just throw me a bone here.
Just I don't know.
Throw me a bone. Throw me a bone. Throw your players a bone. Like, just work to help them, and just don't be like, oh, I got to make sure we get all these games in, and oh, I don't know when the games will be, but just
we're getting them in.
Always be on call.
No, the communication from you. What about you, Cole?
Number 2 for me is something that annoys me to no end. And it kind of builds on what we just talked about with the communication and the, who actually hurt. It's complete disregard for athletes' health in the name of wins. And you see this more on the pitching side than you do on the hitting side. But I've had plenty of kids who play for a coach where they are the best player on that team, bar none, just because they live in a, not as privileged neighborhood, they go to a not as privileged high school. So it's very easy to be the best player if you just have a little more experience playing the game.
Or if you train with Cole Thomas,
or if you just might
be one of the best players on the team.
So, but it's that kid is good, and that in order for you to win, you need to make sure that kid's playing as much as you possibly can. But I feel like I've talked about this before in the past on a past episode. But it was my kid who now plays in college, but he had a stretch where I think he ended up throwing like 60 innings in a spring. just in a single spring by himself because his brother, who was also probably the second best player on the team, he got injured because he was also just a train wreck sometimes. I love that kid to death, but god damn it, dude. But he ends pitching 6-8, middle of the season, his elbow starts bugging him. But the coach is like, all right, you still need to go pitch because we need to go win these games. Like, it took the other team's trainer to come out and say, Coach, you need to take this. I am taking this kid out of the game. And then he had to sit for 2 weeks because his elbow was just in pain, in immense pain because he was just throwing too much and getting overused. And, I've seen, you see it all the time. There's a lot, like we've talked about that old school coach when we had that segment few weeks ago, where there's just like that old school, like, you need to pitch because it's good for the team. And, your pain is only temporary. And
Jesus.
Or it's like, there's like that. It's like, I don't know, you're trying to deviate from like what we call like a sissy mentality. Like, oh, you're
weak.
You're in pain. You're weak. You're not a team player. You're selfish. And as we sit there, it's like, I don't know. When I look back on my high school career, like I don't look at it fondly, honestly, because I hated every minute of my high school career because I hated my high school teams. But like, I don't know, like even I feel like I can talk to most kids that are most guys our age now and just go like, what was your best experience at high school? Is in most like if you look in their totality of their career, like most people are going to say, yeah, high school was not the peak of my career.
No.
Like,
well, and hopefully it wouldn't be, right?
Right. I mean, the people whose high school careers are probably the peaks of their life and their career
they're the coaches.
Right. But they're the guys. They're the guys who
sometimes.
did not end up playing college baseball, did not end up playing professional baseball. High school should be a small, tiny blip, but there are some coaches who just treat it like it's do or die. Like there are millions of dollars at stake. When you get paid a good coach gets paid $3,000 a year, depending on how good the school district is and how much they can pay their coaches. Right? You're not making money.
No.
And I just always kind of sit there and like, what are the real priorities here? Is it winning baseball games or is it improving the lives of the players that play for you? Right? If it's wins, probably shouldn't be a coach in the high school level because I've seen too many people get abused and, brought to the point of injury because they just don't have any care for their kids' health and their well-being because they want to win these games that don't really mean anything.
Yeah, I don't like my next pick.
Yeah, it's like these games don't mean anything. I mean, they mean more than the 13U, 12U tournament games. They mean more than the 8U tournament games, which we see all these parents are like, we got to make sure to win these games. Like high school means more than those games. But then later on, college games mean more than high school games too. I want more kids playing in college. So you need to make sure you protect these kids so they can go have fruitful careers in college. And then after college, the professional becomes way more important than those college games. It progressively gets more and more important, but always kind of have a context. I'm like, a kid's health should not come into conflict with winning a game, or winning a game should not come into conflict with a kid's health.
Right, 100%.
Because now you just look like an asshole.
Oh yeah.
All right, what's number 3?
Thinking that your 22-game season is a make or break for players' careers. Newsflash, high school coaches, your 22-game season does not mean shit.
No.
Like literally fucking shit. Sorry about it. You start in the middle of March. You'll end at the middle of May. Maybe a little bit towards the end if you go to the state games. But like, here's the thing. In Colorado, how many times do games get canceled? And the next thing you know, you have 4 or 5 games in a 6-day, because CHSA, you're only allowed to, do 6 activity days a week. Now you got 5 games in a week. Like, I'm sorry. Also, colleges, they're playing during that time too. So it's not like you got college coaches in the stands watching shit like that. They're worried about their teams more than anything else. Like, your 22-game season is more of a preseason for the summer than anything else. And the summer, that's where it can get more important. Or also, I've worked with kids. Cole's worked with kids. We've had lots of kids come through the facility. I've seen lots of other places. I've seen kids get cut from their high school programs and yet still move on and play in college. I have one of my guys. He got cut his junior year. And we can go to your number one, I believe. Like lots of reasons of why he was cut are in the things that annoy us, Mount Rushmore. But he was cut his junior year. Didn't play for the coach's summer ball team. Didn't do this. Didn't do that. Whatever it is, right? Didn't try out his senior year, and is at his freshman fall, batted .438, had one strikeout, and it's a like really good freaking JUCO, right? So like your season does not mean shit for these kids' careers. Now it can help, obviously can help, but like it is not a make or break for this kid's career. And so like step off the high horse with pushing for the wins over players' health. Step off with like thinking that this is the the World Series for these kids. Like it's not for some of them, maybe, and that's awesome, but like generally your 22 game season doesn't mean shit for the kid's career.
Right. And I sit there, I mean, that's one of those things I think about all the time, where I think there are some coaches who just kind of think they're at a level that they're not. Like I know some garbage coaches in the high school level. Just they're not good. They're very lucky they have very good players. But I think there are enough guys around the state who elevate their level of importance. Like most coaches say, you're not going to be Mark Johnson. You're not going to be who was the coach at Eaton forever?
I don't know.
I forget his name.
I mean, like Joe White, Scott Bullock,
like these legendary coaches throughout Colorado high school history. It's like odds are you're not going to be that guy. And I would even argue, I'm like, I don't think Mark sees himself that way.
No,
I don't think he's got like such an inflated ego. He has those wins because he does things the right way. He's from a very good area to put some quotations there, but he's done things the right way, and he's times I've seen him talk and I've seen him speak. He's a humble dude.
Played for him.
Yeah,
good fucking dude.
He's a humble dude. He doesn't elevate his ego, and I think the thing about Mark is you watch Mark. I mean, he's fine. It seems to me like he's fine with his players going to other places. He's fine. He's like, I'm the head coach at Cherry Creek High School, and I'm going to put my players in the best position for Cherry Creek to win. But I also sit there and like, I also want the best players at Cherry Creek, and I know that sometimes for a lot of kids, I can't facilitate all the things to every kid to make them the best player, so I can cede some control to other people, right? And at the end of the day, like when March 1st comes around, I'm going to put the best 18 guys on the field. I don't care where they went. I don't care who they work with. As long as they're those best 18 guys, I'm going to put them on my team, and I'm going to go win some baseball games.
And he does a good job of it.
He does a very good job of it.
I love Mark. He's a good dude, man.
So my number 3 is bad-mouthing facilities, which actually kind of just leads into that, actually. Very great segue. I've seen this many times, and I know you and I have both had this problem with we'll have players who come to us, and we'll then have their coaches say, don't go to that person. That person, like you had recently with a high school up north,
yep.
Where what was the reasoning?
To them, I ruined players' swings.
Okay,
that's about it.
That was all that was elaborated on.
That's all there was. That now it's funny when the players that I work with are like the only ones that move on to college generally from that school, and the only ones that actually stay. So that's crazy. But apparently, I ruined swings.
Yeah,
no basis.
Yeah, Jason and I have had plenty of complaints from different schools, like, oh, they only just care about velocity, or they only care about. This was a college coach that pissed Jason and I off, but it's just like, oh, they hurt everybody that comes into the facility. And like, I only know of one kid who's ever gotten Tommy John, and even that kid would say it was my fault. It wasn't Jason Nicole's fault.
Weird,
but. It's just that same as people who have it's like what we said about Mark is very good at. We'll see. He will like you go whatever it takes for you to go be good. Right. I know Valor's the exact same. Well, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. It was sorry.
Keith Wall, but I think they have a new guy now.
Yeah, Wall was a really good guy because coaching at Bear Creek, played them every year, and Wall's a really good dude. And I know that's his philosophy. It's like. I don't think Valor even really does winter workouts or fall workouts at their school. They just,
No.
hey, you go do your thing and just come back March 1st, be good.
Yeah.
That's it. And I think but there's that, and I wonder what other than just pure ego, but I want if there's just like, if I don't know what my players are doing, how can I feel confident? And which I understand. For me as a coach at Bear Creek, I don't know what guys are doing, so I don't know what I'm going to kind of come in with, when the season starts. That's why we in the past have done winter workouts, but this season we won't be doing them. We're just going to do the Keith Wall thing. Just whatever you need to do, just be good by the time season rolls around.
Yeah, and like honestly though, like to me that excuse, that if that is an excuse that some coach has and is hesitant to sending a player to a specific, like the thing that I do is like I video every single session. You have access to every single session that we do on YouTube to watch the video. You will have access to their blast motion information. You will have access to their hit tracks information. We take notes at the end of every session. You'll have access to those notes. Those notes will contain what we did for the day, what the players' takeaways were, what the focuses were, and all their numbers. So like for me, like for some coaches to have that, like, well, I don't know what they're doing over there. Well, fucking look. Like, quit being a lazy son of a bitch and like go fucking look. Go reach out to me.
We'll just even ask.
Yeah. And guess what? Here's all the information. You want to come in and sit in on a session that we do? Fucking come in and watch and sit down. Like, I have no issues with that. But like, there's too many places that high schools, I would say, that have that. Oh, well, watch out for this place. Like, if they have anything about this place, it's like, well, that's your fault, in my opinion.
Right. But it's just kind of like a pure laziness thing.
Yeah.
Not totally. And I think there's also a element of we maybe teach athletes something that they don't want them to be taught.
Oh.
So I don't. So and I don't subscribe to that theory full blow, because we're going to teach you as a pitcher, we're throw hard, throw strikes, and throw with nasty shit, which most coaches I think will want, right? But so I'll tell you this story. This is not our facility. This is a physical therapy facility that we're really good friends with. That he and I DM back and forth, and he told me a story about a high school in the area who utilized their services and just said, "Hey, I want you to do movement screenings on all of my players in my program." All right. He comes back with all their assessments. Like, here, and this is what he does. And just like, here are the players that are good. Here are the players that have some yellow flags that we need to maybe monitor. And here are kids who are red flags. Kids who are red flags are the ones that they have a lot of structural issues, a lot of movement inefficiencies. They should not be playing, and they should go work on this shit. Go fix this stuff, because they're liable to get hurt if they don't fix it or they don't address it. And this coach tells him, he literally just badmouths the facility. It's just like, oh, they don't do this, they don't do that. Oh my God. I'm not doing this story justice. I need to find it. But it's one of those things like, you required our services, and now you're going to badmouth us because we presented you with information you didn't like.
It's the same idea that I've talked about in the past, is like, it's a mirror. Like, all we look to do essentially is just hold up a mirror. And if you don't like what the reflection is that our fault for holding the mirror, or is that your fault for looking that way? And like, if you're a coach that essentially goes through and is like, hey, I need your help, you tell me what I need to do for the help that I'm asking for, and then I'm going to say, no, I don't need that. It's like, well, then what was the whole point of you reaching out in the beginning? Like, what was the whole point? And like, I've had a high school that's done that too, where they've essentially said, I want you to work with all of my guys. I want you to run my whole hitting program in the off season. It's like, all right, awesome. We go set it up. No call, decline. I got a text message one time saying, who is this? I don't have this number saved. It's like, oh, just scroll up. You'll look at our conversations that we've been having for months about me, working with your hitters. And then next thing you know, it's wild, man. The trip that some of these coaches have.
So the whole context of this story was, it was game 2 when in the 2021 season, we had that preseason thing because they shortened the regular season. So we had a preseason thing. And I didn't stay for the game because I had to work here. And AJ, who's my head coach, who former fast hitting coach here, but he had told me that I forgot what the team we played. I think it was like Bennett or something like that. I don't want to badmouth the coach at all, but game 2 of our preseason, the second game of the entire preseason, and the kid who started threw 5 innings and 80 pitches of a preseason game that didn't count for anything. like there was no win-loss record, there was no playoffs at the end of this preseason. Right?
And what time of the year is this?
This was March 26th of 2021. Right, so the preseason had just started, but remember we were still in that we don't know what the season's going to be because of COVID stuff, and so I just said kid throwing 80 pitches in the second game of preseason doesn't mean anything. It's exactly what's wrong with amateur baseball in Colorado, and so I'll tell Nick, who's the guy in the story, Nick Thurlow from Nextera PT. He writes back, I had a coach tell one of my kids I shut down who was a freshman with a growth plate injury that if he isn't going to participate, then don't expect to make a team. And then he told his entire team that if anybody is going to see us is told that is told they have to take time off, that they are letting their team down. Then the guys who aren't even telling me that they're and then it leaves the guys telling them that they're not hurt, and then they end up getting hurt. Yep. It's just like, so it's one of those. This goes back to not my number 2, actually based on all my 3, coercion of players, saying if you're going to take time off because of an injury, you're letting the team down. You're a selfish player. If you go to this place and they tell you to shut down, then you're a bad teammate and don't expect to make a team. And what was my number? What I call bad mouthing facilities. Like if you're going to bad mouth a facility or a training facility, like a physical therapist office who is very good at what they do, like probably the best in the state, I would argue. And they're telling a kid hey, you need to shut down because you're on, your body's being held by a thread, and one small break in that thread you're going to be banged for the rest of the season. It's like, what's going to be worse for you as a coach? The kid sits out for 2 weeks, or he has to sit out a whole year because he tore his UCL.
Hey, but he was there for the practices. He was there for the game.
I know. That's the thing. If you want to be a winner, you would want to make sure that your staff is fully healthy or as healthy as can be.
What's the saying? You can't make the club if you're in the tub. Is some football saying, you can't make your team if you're in the ice tub, having ice out or whatever it is. There's no point in you trying to be on a team if you can't attribute to the team. Being injured doesn't help you attribute to the team.
I'm fine with you coming and being able to do whatever it is you may be able to do. It's if you're injured or there's a reason that you're not throwing, I'm not going to make you throw.
No.
And it's just one of those. It's kind of if a coach doesn't really recognize that there is an injury or there is a problem, I wonder if there's just that I don't believe it exists.
Oh yeah.
It's that one thing. If I don't know, if I've never seen a ghost, why would I believe that ghosts are real? If I've never seen an alien, why would I believe aliens are real?
Dude, I ran into a former big league dude this past week on Twitter over some shit like that. Because he was, and we can talk about it at a different point with us being on Mount Rushmore right now, but that almost kind of leads into my next 4th pick. Are you ready to transition?
Go for it.
Let me get the exact wording. Doing it the way that they did it because that's the way that they did it.
Oh yeah.
The amount of high school coaches that do things because that's how they did it, and not understanding that there's so much more knowledge about the game. And when I say the game, I don't mean the nuances or the feel for it. I'm literally speaking in ways of being able to see injury earlier. I'm speaking in ways of how they do their warm-up. There's been a big thing that dynamic stretching, or is it static stretching? That's doing static stretching is not as beneficial to the body and the warming up
definitely for not a warm up. No,
as a dynamic warm up is. And so but you'll go through and you'll look, and if you see a team out there doing a little static stretching, it's crazy. It's almost like the coach is 40 years or older just because that's what they did. And the amount of things that happen.
The run to the center field, run back, and then everyone get in a big circle.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, 1,
2, 3.
Yeah, arm across the chest for guys or everybody's watching on YouTube. Oh, head over your hand.
Back scratchers.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah. No, like,
yeah.
like those, like just doing shit because now, if you do something and it's the same as what you did, if you do something as a coach and it's the same thing that you did as when you were playing, like, I'm not saying that's the reason why that it's bad. I'm saying the only reason you do it is because you did. Like, if you find out that, you know, you had a high school coach or a college coach when you were growing up that was like ahead of their time and had shit figured out, yeah, keep doing what they were doing, because now we have ways to prove that that was what they needed to do. Whereas if you have the other way, if they're only doing it because they did it, like running polls, like doing just like little shit like that, like where it's like that's not beneficial to the athlete. Well, how do you know? Well, look at all these studies. Well, I don't need studies. This is what we did, and look at me, I'm alive and I did great. It's like you're coaching a high school. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't think that was your main goal when you were growing up, is to be a high school coach. It wasn't to play professionally. Oh, okay. And did you? Oh, no, you didn't. Okay, so did it really work out for you, or are you just still alive on this planet revolving around the sun? Like, what is it?
I've talked about this before in the past, is where it's that same thing. It's like this is the way I did it and has made me successful. So therefore, this is the only way I'm going to teach, or I'm going to coach guys to do it. My junior college coach, Greg Brummett, love that guy to death, gave me an opportunity. I will always, hold him in high esteem for that. Was not the best coach I've ever had. But look on paper, Greg should have been a good coach. Grew up in Kansas, goes to Wichita State. It's the greatest pitcher Wichita State's ever produced. He won. He was the ace pitcher for Wichita State for their only national championship. Struck out Barry Bonds, played ASU, played all those teams. Poor little Wichita State, which everyone's like, Wichita State's this elite program. Like, they're a good program, but they're not elite.
No.
But they got that one national championship back in the 80s. And I think it's because Gene was there forever. That's what helped Wichita State.
Fun fact of the day, my dad met Gene Stevens. So I was actually born in Wichita, Kansas.
Oh, nice.
Gene Stevenson's granddaughter was being born when I was being born.
Oh, funny.
My dad was walking my mom into the room, saw Gene Stevens, walked away from my mom, shook Gene Stevens' hand, and introduced him, went back to my mom and hopped in. But yeah.
So Coach Brummett, he won Player of the Year at the World Series, at the College World Series. College Series Player of the Year. I think he was up for the Golden Spikes Award and all that. Played 6 years in the major leagues with the Giants. Everything on paper, you're like, this guy knows what the hell he's talking about. He was not the best coach I've ever had. Well, not even close. Doesn't even break the top three. The best coaches I had were the ones who didn't make it. Yep. The guys who maybe got drafted, but they tore their hamstring and bowed out in single A because they just couldn't get healthy again. One of the best coaches I've ever had, his brother was way more successful than him, way more successful. But even he was supposed to be better than his brother, but his brother ended up having the Hall of Fame career. He was the better coach. Don't get me wrong. I'm assuming that brother is a pretty good guy. He's really nice. He knows what he's talking about. But the guy I had who didn't make the major leagues was the better coach because he was able to teach you things that help you as the individual. And that's what your point is. Just because you did something that made you successful does not mean it's going to make the next kid successful. No. Everyone's different. Everyone's got their own path to what's going to bring them success. And we're so obsessed with pitching coaches, the ones throw this fastball the way I threw my fastball, throw this curveball the way I threw my curveball. Not really analyzing arm slots, not really analyzing how well it spins, not analyzing the spin direction and all that. You just sit there and eyeball it, and eyeballing it can take you so far. It can get you to a good position. I can see a good curveball, I can see a good fastball, right? But teaching a guy to do something I did, if that kid is not physically capable of doing the things I could do, is just a pointless endeavor because you're just not going to get anywhere.
Well, it's finding out, why is that a good curveball though?
Right.
Yes, we can both sit there and go, damn, that was a good curveball, but why was it curveball? What made it a good curveball? And that's the thing. It's like, and I would equate this to like when you watch those news stories and there's this like old grandma, grandpa that's like 105 years old. And they're like, so what's your secret to living this long? I'm like, I've had a Diet Coke every single day for my whole, I smoked a pack of cigarettes and that's what kept the sickness away. Like,
Right.
so, like, I mean, when during COVID, when it was getting crazy, like I was hearing, like nursing homes and shit like that saying like, well, our patients that smoke cigarettes, they're not getting it too much. Maybe the cigarette smoke kills the virus, like little shit like that. Where it's like you have no fucking idea that that's the reason it works. You have no idea if you're 105 years old because you drank a Coke every single day. Like you don't know that worked for you as a player because. Did it actually work, or is that just what was going on at the time? Like, and that doesn't mean it's going to translate to your players because you have to teach your players. You can't just be your players.
Well, it's like that. What I would say about a lot of, you watch a lot of major leaguers, and I just sit there and I'm like, I wonder just who would be a good coach and who wouldn't be.
It's crazy, dude.
Yeah, and you just I sit there and like I watch like the all-time greats, like. I'm sure Randy Johnson, if he coaches, which I think he spends most of his time just doing NFL photography now, if you've ever seen those pictures. But like if he coaches, like I just kind of wonder what that would be like to try to learn from Randy Johnson. Like Randy Johnson's almost 7 feet tall and threw 100 from the left side. That's very hard to replicate.
In the like 2000s.
In the 2000s, like that's like you were. I mean, by all accounts, an alien in baseball.
Oh yeah.
Like you're 7 feet tall, you're left-handed, you throw 100, you throw a slider that, took out more ankles than anything else. Like you were a guy that left-handed hitters were just, I mean, obviously it's only happened one time in an all-star game. But like John Kruk refused to stand in the box when he faced you. It's like, so I was like, what's that? And I'm sure maybe he is a good coach if he coaches in some capacity. But it's like, your experience as a baseball player is significantly different than the vast majority of players.
You have to understand that.
Exactly. And it's the same thing. Like, I think Teacher Man he went viral a couple weeks ago where people were talking about things. There was that video of like the guy impersonating Teacher Man. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Yeah, I saw it.
But people talk about Judge. Like Aaron Judge, like, oh, Aaron Judge did this and all that. And I'm like, and I saw some arguments on there like he's also 6'8", 280 pounds. Like, and there is a lot to that. Don't get me wrong. He's big and he's strong, and that's what helps him hit a bunch of home runs. He's also a really technically sound hitter, but being big, strong definitely gives him an advantage.
Also gets the most amount of out of the zone strikes called on him than anybody else in the league too.
He does for sure.
So it makes it tough.
But it's one of those like if you. What you're saying, whatever worked for you is not necessarily going to work for, but like, guys like Clemens, guys like Pedro, guys like, Maddox maybe to an extent because he wasn't the big, massive flamethrower, but like, you see like Bonds, guys like, I'm sure
Bonds is an amazing example. There's a reason he was only the Marlins hitting coach for like a year.
Right. Like, I think wasn't the story where you just hit like I did.
Yes, like literally. And like if you guys look at it, there's been a great demise of Christian Yelich. The dude has not stopped doing the Barry Bonds drill, and it's weird. It's almost like he's struggling because he's not hitting the ball in the air enough now. And
right.
Like there's like Bonds is an amazing example.
Bonds was like you can't just be a coach, and this is more my example for players. It's just because a coach tells you to do something because that's the way they did it, always give that a grain of salt. Like if a coach can't give you a reason why you're doing something and explain it and give it a full-fledged thought out process, then I wouldn't trust them.
No.
That's what we tell guys. Like people go like, why am I doing this? Here's why. And those are the coaches you trust because those are the ones that actually have an idea of what they're doing. They know what they're trying to accomplish. So my last example is
drum roll,
aimless conditioning.
Heyo!
This was my throwaway that annoys the hell out of me. It's not like the first three are pretty like major.
Gets at you.
The fourth one just like me as a coach. Did you do this as a high school player and in college where you would play a baseball game regardless if you won or lost, you'd have to run?
Yeah.
I'm like I always said to them like, why are you doing that? I don't understand it. And I mean, what are you gonna get? What do you get out of it? Is there like a toughness thing? I don't think anybody's ever gotten mentally tough from running beyond David Goggins. But
Now, I will say, I will have a caveat. I do think there is, like, at some point, because, like, me, like, I hate running. I despise it. I don't do it. I don't ride the bike. I don't do shit. I'm a lazy person. But that doesn't mean the fact that I don't like running. But when I was at Garden City, running 69s, 6 triangles, 9 minutes,
yeah,
home plate, foul pole, back. There were times where like I like had to like dig deep and be like, hey, like fucking go, like figure this out. Like you almost kind of hit like a little second switch of like, I didn't realize I could do this, but like I'm doing it to a point though. Like it's one of those where it's like, I don't need to, I don't need to see God 7 days a week because I'm praying because I'm gonna die running. Like it's a here and there thing I can see. So like me personally, I didn't mind that aspect of it when I understood why I was doing it. To like, if I knew I'm doing this because it's like, hey, you're just a pussy right now, like figure it out.
I get that, but I sit there and I ask myself, and I've gotten in trouble with coaches for that kind of stuff. Where I'm just like, you do conditioning or you do the punishment conditioning, and it's like this is supposed to make you better. I'm like, how does this make me a better baseball player?
Yeah, no, I
Like
agree.
running 69s, how does that make me a better pitcher? How does that make me, there's that mental toughness aspect. It's like, okay, what mentally, how am I gonna be mentally? Am I gonna sit up there on the mound? It's like, got bases loaded. I'm one strike away or I'm one out away, and I really got to work out of this inning. And I just go like, well, I could do 69s, so I can get out of this inning. No one's ever said that. And anybody who has said that, I guarantee they failed. But it's it's the I'm fine with the you can learn something about yourself that you didn't think you were
Yes.
capable of. I'm fine with that, but it comes to a point of there's so many other things you could do. I think that will present that same exact without making the
100%.
kids suffer.
100%.
One of the things we do it in our velocity stages is when kids kind of feel like, oh, if I just throw this ball hard, don't worry about my mechanics, don't care about where it goes, I can throw this thing pretty hard. Right. And then we learn to bring those vibes back in. Like at some point we're gonna have to get on the mountain. You need to know where it's going. But that's always those first thing we call like newbie gains on the velo side is when kids kind of like, oh, I didn't realize I could do that if I just let rip and let it go. I've always been taught, just those strikes, throw with control. If you can throw with control, you're going to be more successful than not. At some point, like we say all the time, like the kids who can throw strikes consistently at the youth level will be successful because hitting's not that good.
Yep.
Right. But as you get more and more up into this level, you need to start throwing with more intent, more velocity, because kids who don't throw hard but can throw with control get punished more often than the kids who throw hard, right? But where I see where mental toughness comes in for a high school guy is you need to put them in situations where they're going to see that situation. That's where I feel like, oh, I can do this.
100%.
Is create more game-like situations in your practices. Maybe you do live ABs and you put guys on base and you just be like, okay, don't, here's the situation, get out of it. And then, maybe there can be some kind of a punishment at the very end, but you've got to be able to show the kids in real life game situations that they can accomplish something, they can get it done. That's where I feel that mental toughness comes from.
100%.
It's not from, oh, if you don't do this, I'm going to run you till you puke.
Exactly.
That's not
there's
where,
a difference.
I think I put aimless conditioning as it's conditioning that doesn't really have a point, or conditioning that maybe it like I'm just gonna. It's the same thing like college coaches and high school coaches do with POs. It's like, all right, you did your bullpen. I don't know what to do with you. We're gonna do BP. Just go run.
Yep.
That's the kind of condition. Like, so I feel like everything you do in practice needs to have a purpose.
Yeah.
But most coaches are not very good at organizing a practice to have everybody has a purpose for being there.
100%.
So that's good segment there. I think we had some fun there.
If you guys want us to do more Mount Rushmores or more kind of things like that, let us know, because I would like to do more. I'm down.
All right, wrapping up this week's podcast. Connor, do you got anything to plug?
We are going to be running some camps coming up here in December, so be on the lookout for that. If anybody is on the newsletter, you guys will be receiving a little thing letting you know about it and how to sign up. If you're not on the newsletter, go over to fastcolorado.com and you guys will be able to join. If you scroll to the bottom, it'll say, join newsletter. And yeah, that's about it. Not too much outside of that, man. Not too much. Just fast_RBI for everything else. What about you?
Nothing really happening on the pitching side. Maybe I'll start looking at doing some camps here very soon because I'll be a little more probably bored in the spring coming this year. But yeah, nothing crazy going on right now. We've got teams will be starting up about middle of January. December's coming around, so college guys will be coming back, which is probably the group I like working with the most is our college athletes. You can go find me at Cole Thomas Fast on Instagram, CThomas624 on Twitter. You can go follow Fast Baseball at Fast Baseball on Instagram and TikTok. You can follow Fast Performance at Fast Performance CO. Go buy our merch. We still got merch still out available for people to purchase. Anything else we got? Anything I missed?
That's about it, I think.
All right, sick. All right, well then, in that case, we will see you all next Tuesday.